Hey guys, it's Brian again from LakeHickoryScuba and Marina, and I'm down here in our workshop working on a regulator here. This is one of our classroom rigs that we rent out to students or to divers who don't have their own gear and need to rent gear. But this one's got a minor leak in it, and I'm going to show you what's causing the leak, and we're going to talk a little bit why it's so important, why we should fix even minor problems or minor leaks that we come across before allowing them to come into a major emergency. And that's one thing that we teach in the rescue diver courses. We're going to teach you how to look for things like this and how to fix it there at the dive site if need be. But more importantly, it teaches you why it's so important to fix those minor problems before allowing them to become major emergencies. Because it can cause stress. Stress can develop into panic, and as we all know, there's no room for panic in scuba diving. So let me show you what's wrong with this this gauge here. All I did is simply pull the gauge up out of the boot itself. There is a minor leak coming from where the hose fitting connects into the gauge itself, and you can see that underwater. You can see those bubbles coming out. You can actually hear it on land when you have it hooked up to a tank. So all I'm going to do is simply unscrew the gauge from the hose, and I'm going to show you what's causing that leak itself. Now sometimes when you take your gauge off, one of two things is going to happen. Either the little swivel that goes inside will come off with the gauge, or it will come off with the hose. Just be careful not to bend or break that little swivel. I'm going to pull it out here and show you exactly what is causing the problems. So this little swivel here, that's what allows this to swivel, if you will, and still keep pressure on it too. But there's a little swivel that goes inside here, okay? And there's these two little O-rings. Try to show you here with the pick. There's an O-ring here on this side. There's an O-ring over here on this side. All right. Now, either the swivel itself can get dislodged or bent, or one of these O-rings can go bad. And I can already see that this O-ring here, if you look from this angle, it looks like the O-ring is in good working order. But as I turn the swivel, you will see that that O-ring has been flattened out. And that little flattened out spot is not allowing it to seal. And that right there is what is causing all the leakage from the high pressure hose here straight from the gauge. So as the air is coming up, as it's going into the gauge, it's still going to register, but I'm going to have quite a bit of leakage coming out. And that, you know, first of all, that is an emergency there. You're losing air that you need underwater. But it's a real simple fix here. All I'm going to do is simply remove these two O-rings, put two brand new O-rings on it, replace the swivel, screw my gauge back on, snap it back into the boot. I'm going to show you just how simple that is for us to do. Remove this old O-ring, and this one's been on here for a while. So it's actually not too difficult to get off. Sometimes these smaller O-rings can be a pain. And this O-ring here is just about to fall apart. It's actually coming off in a couple different pieces. There we go. I don't know if you can see it here or not. Looks good on one side. I flip it over to the other side. You can see a big old chunk out of it there. Let's go ahead and get this other one off. There's several ways you can do this. You can kind of pinch and then get up underneath them with a pick. These have actually been lubed up quite a bit with Crystal Lube in the past. And they're older O-rings, so they're starting to fall apart a little bit. But we got the other one off there. Alright, so that's what the swivel right there looks like. Okay. We'll take our new O-rings and we're going to lube them up. We're going to put a little bit of Crystal Lube on them. Now we're going to slide the new O-rings on the swivel. Just like that. Two brand new O-rings on there. Okay. Now what I like to do is actually take the swivel and go ahead and put it up in the gauge side itself, like that. Alright, now I'm going to come back here to my high pressure hose, and I'm going to ease that swivel up in there, being careful not to damage it. I'm going to tighten down the hose to the gauge. There's several ways that you can do it. Take me a 14mm wrench here. It's also important that you use the right size wrenches. This is a Marez. Most Marez hose fittings you will are going to be 14mm. Now I can take the gauge, slide it back down into the boot. And this is usually one of the hardest parts, is getting the gauge back into the boot itself, or out, vice versa. The actual repair of it's pretty simple, but getting this guy back in the boot can be difficult at times. Okay, once you get it in there, and of course the last thing I want to do is hook it to a tank, make sure it works, make sure there ain't any leaks. And you probably would want to do that before you put the gauge back into the boot itself. One thing that I do is I keep me a little mixture of a little bit of soap and water here, and I just put it in a spray bottle and I'll spray around it, cut the air on, and look for air bubbles coming out. A lot of times here on land, if it's a really quiet room or whatnot, our workshop's pretty quiet in here, but you can actually hear that air coming out. So that's a good way to test it. And of course you can just set it down in a water tank after you got it turned on, set it down and look for bubbles to escape. So guys, I hope you learned something from the video. Hope you see just how easy it is to replace the swivel or an O-ring in there, but just how much or how minor of a leak that this guy had could cause a major emergency underwater. So guys, I appreciate you watching our videos. As always, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you like us on Facebook, pin us on Pinterest, subscribe to us here on YouTube, and as always guys, we appreciate your business.